Welcome to Ask Chuck webcast. This is the first time in about a month that I've done this because Congress takes a summer break during the month of August. So I had the good fortune of being back in Iowa, some time on the farm, some time to give speeches around the state, hold 14 town meetings to finish my 99 counties for the 31st year in a row. I spent 3 days outside of Iowa on a vacation. I'm glad to be back with you now to answer your questions, and as you know, we take questions from Facebook or Twitter or email. So I thank you very much for your questions, and I'll answer 2 questions this week. So I'll go to my questions from Brandy from Carlisle. Tweets, quote, U.S. weapons in Mexico killing Americans, question mark. What's the U.S. doing about this? Thanks for bringing this to light. Thank you very much, Brandy, for your question. Well, of course, you bring up the stupid program called Fast and Furious, where somebody in the Justice Department had a grand scheme about 2 years ago that we ought to allow gun dealers, licensed gun dealers in Arizona to sell guns illegally and follow them across the border. There were people down in Arizona in the grassroots of the Justice Department that was sending messages up to Main Justice here in Washington saying, this isn't a very good idea. Something bad's going to happen. Well, the prophecy came true with the murder of Patrol Agent Terry, and probably some other crimes as well. In fact, I think they've documented 12 crimes, not necessarily murders, convicted with some of these guns. And about 1,800 guns went out, and maybe as many as 500 has gotten back. But most of those guns will not be retrieved, and they'll be involved in the world of crime for decades into the future. So it is a bad thing. And since these whistleblowers down in Arizona weren't being listened to in Main Justice, they came to me and I instituted the investigation you're talking about. And I think the bottom line for the investigation is 2 things for me, and we aren't there yet. Number 1, obviously, make sure that some stupid policy like this in the future isn't reinitiated. And secondly, who knew when and what about all this at the highest level in the Justice Department, or even as some emails that came visible last week for the first time, communication between the White House and the Justice Department on this issue. Well, we don't have these questions answered yet, but I thank you very much for your support of my effort of investigating this, and I'll continue the investigation until I get to the bottom of it. Let's go to the second question from Harley from Mason City. He tweets, when will Washington start being Americans and not with Democrat or Republican parties? Well, I think you have to understand that we're going to continue to have the 2 parties or maybe more parties, because parties aren't just about the partisanship that you're talking about. Parties only have a right to exist if they have ideas. And obviously, in a democracy, there's more than one way of doing something. So what we want to do is make sure that every idea is directed towards the good of the country and the good of the future. And so I would have to agree with you that there's too much partisanship, but I want to suggest to you something for consideration, that there might not be as much partisanship as what you see on television, because controversy makes news. And when people get along with each other, and I always use Senator Baucus, a Democrat from Montana, and me as a Republican, when we were running the Finance Committee, most every bill that got out of committee was a bipartisan bill because we worked together. But when we work together, you don't hear that. But if we were fighting every day, you'd hear a lot about it in Iowa and Montana. But that's not the case. So don't come to the conclusion that everybody is strictly Republican or strictly Democrat, because in the United States Senate, nothing would get done when you're divided 53 to 47, and it takes 60 votes to get something done. if there wasn't some bipartisan cooperation. So there's still too much partisanship, as your question implies, but there might not be as much as you think there is, and it's probably worse in the House than it is in the Senate. But we will continue to push for the cooperation that exists between Senator Baucus and me and try to expand it beyond just a few senators. Bottom line, though, I would suggest to you this, and it's not a tongue-in-cheek comment, it's very serious. I look at 99 other senators, there's not a single one of them that I dislike, and I don't think any of them dislike Chuck Grassley, and if they do, I don't want to know who they are. So it's a friendlier environment than what you might get from television. Thank you very much for your questions, and now to finish this report for this week, I want to finish by telling you that today we're going to vote on a judge, and today we're also going to vote to proceed to the final, what we hope is the final debate on the patent bill. The patent laws have not been reformed since I think 30, 40 years ago. I don't really know the exact date. But bottom line of it is, with the change in the economy and technology and everything else, and a lot of whole new areas of invention that nobody ever thought was possible, we need to update the patent laws. And it also, we think, will encourage more employment in the United States as well. So it's about jobs, but it's about intellectual property and protecting it and encouraging invention and research. And so we'll take that bill up probably for the rest of this week, and then look forward to hearing the President's speech or reading his speech on Thursday. Once again, I ask you to, next week, I'll be with you, send by email, tweet, or Facebook your questions, and we'll proceed to another webcast. Thank you very much.